My golden child brother hired a pie to expose my failures. He found my multi-million success instead. Hey Reddit. Growing up, I always lived in the shadow of my older brother, Adam. He was the golden child, the perfect son who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Every family gathering was a chorus of praise for Adam's achievements. He was the star quarterback in high school, graduated with honors, and landed a high-paying job straight out of college. Me? I was the black sheep, the kid who barely scraped by in school and couldn't seem to hold down a traditional job. It wasn't that I wasn't trying. I just couldn't thrive in the paths everyone else seemed to think were mandatory. While Adam climbed the corporate ladder, I was hopping from one freelance gig to another, quietly building something I couldn't yet name but felt had potential. The comparisons between us were relentless. My parents made it clear they didn't understand or approve of my choices, and Adam never missed an opportunity to remind me of my shortcomings. He'd smirk when I mentioned my projects, dismissing them as childish hobbies. The turning point came last year at a family reunion. Adam, as usual, was holding court, bragging about his latest promotion and how he was planning to buy a new vacation home. Then he turned to me with a patronizing grin and asked, "So, how's that thing you're doing? Still playing on your laptop in coffee shops?" The room erupted in laughter, and I felt my face flush. I wanted to shout, to explain what I was really working on, but I knew it wouldn't matter. No one there would understand. What Adam didn't know was that I had spent the last 5 years quietly building an online business. I'd started as a freelancer, offering small services like graphic design and content creation, but over time, I'd learned how to scale. I created digital courses, automated systems, and even built a niche community that thrived under my guidance. By the time of that reunion, my business was generating millions annually, but I had kept it under wraps. Partly because I didn't feel the need to share, and partly because I didn't want to deal with the inevitable jealousy or disbelief. But Adam's condescension lit a fire in me. I didn't want revenge, not exactly. I just wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need anyone's approval to succeed. A few weeks after the reunion, I noticed something strange. My social media accounts, business email, and even some of my online forums started experiencing unusual activity. Password resets I hadn't requested. Odd login attempts. At first, I thought it was a random hacker, but as I dug deeper, I realized someone was snooping deliberately. Then came the bombshell. I received a call from one of my employees, who mentioned a man asking strange questions about me at an industry conference. When she described him, my heart sank. It was a private investigator. I pieced it together quickly. Adam had hired someone to dig into my life, no doubt expecting to find dirt he could use to humiliate me further. He wanted to prove to the family that my so-called career was a joke. I was furious, but I was also curious. I decided not to intervene. Let him dig. Let him see what he finds. Weeks went by, and I heard nothing. Then, one evening, I got a call from Adam. His voice was tight, barely masking his anger. "Why didn't you tell me?" he snapped. "Tell you what?" I played dumb, relishing the moment. "Don't act coy. I know everything now. The investigator showed me your numbers. Your company. Your stupid online empire." I leaned back in my chair, savoring the irony. Adam had set out to expose me as a failure, and instead, he had uncovered the truth. My business wasn't just successful, it was wildly profitable. The best part? The investigator's report didn't just include my financial success. It also detailed how I had built a community of over 500,000 loyal followers, how I'd mentored countless people to start their own businesses, and how I'd been invited to speak at global conferences. Adam's shock quickly turned into resentment. He started accusing me of hiding my success on purpose, of making him look like a fool. I calmly reminded him that he had hired a pie to dig into my life without my permission, so if anyone was playing games, it was him. What followed was a series of family confrontations. Adam couldn't keep the discovery to himself, and soon my parents knew everything. They were initially stunned, struggling to reconcile the image they had of me as the family disappointment with the reality of my achievements. But their disbelief soon turned into pride, or maybe guilt. For the first time in my life, my parents actually seemed interested in what I was doing. They asked questions about my work, praised my resilience, and even apologized for underestimating me. It was bittersweet. On one hand, I had finally earned their respect. On the other, it took a pie report to make them see me for who I was. Adam, however, couldn't let it go. He began nitpicking my success, claiming it was all luck or that I'd somehow cheated the system. It became clear that he couldn't handle the idea of me surpassing him in any way. His jealousy was palpable, and it started affecting the family dynamic. The final straw came when Adam made a public scene at my parents' anniversary dinner. He accused me of lying to the family for years, of being manipulative, and even suggested that my business wasn't legitimate. My parents were horrified, and I finally decided I'd had enough. I stood up, looked Adam in the eye, and said, "You can't stand that I built something on my own, without needing anyone's approval. You've always needed validation from others, but I don't. That's the difference between us." The room fell silent. Adam stormed out, slamming the door behind him. In the days that followed, I started hearing whispers about Adam's own life. Turns out, his corporate job wasn't as secure as he made it seem. There were rumors of layoffs and financial trouble. He had been projecting his insecurities onto me all along. But this isn't the end of the story. Recently, I discovered something shocking about Adam, something that could change everything. I haven't decided how to handle it yet, but one thing is certain: this family drama is far from over. The truth about Adam. After the confrontation at my parents' anniversary dinner, I tried to move on. I had no desire to escalate the feud with Adam. But then, something unexpected fell into my lap, a piece of information that made me question everything I thought I knew about my golden child brother. A few weeks after the dinner, I received a message from someone I didn't recognize. It was a former colleague of Adam's, someone who had worked with him during his rise up the corporate ladder. They claimed they had something urgent to share and asked to meet in person. Curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet at a local cafe. The man, let's call him Jake, wasted no time getting to the point. He told me Adam's pristine image was a facade. According to Jake, Adam had been skimming money from company accounts during his time at a previous job. He had manipulated financial records to funnel funds into a private account, all while maintaining his golden boy reputation. At first, I couldn't believe it. Adam had always been smug and condescending, but this was criminal. Jake handed me a folder filled with documents, bank transfers, internal emails, and reports from the company's investigation. It was all there in black and white. Adam had been caught, but instead of facing charges, he had negotiated a quiet resignation. The company didn't want the bad press, so they let him leave with a glowing recommendation. Suddenly, everything made sense. Adam's obsession with my success, his desperation to tear me down, it wasn't just jealousy. It was fear. Fear that someone might dig into his past and expose him for the fraud he was. For a few days, I sat on the information, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to confront him, to finally knock him off the pedestal he had built for himself. But another part of me hesitated. Despite everything, he was still my brother. The decision was made for me when Adam came to my house uninvited. He was fuming, accusing me of turning the family against him. He claimed I had manipulated Mom and Dad into seeing me as the successful one, painting him as a failure. I stayed calm, but inside, I was boiling. I told him to leave, but he refused, pushing further until he crossed the line. He accused me of being a fraud, saying my business would crumble if anyone looked closely enough. That's when I snapped. I told him I knew the truth about his past. I laid it all out: the embezzlement, the quiet resignation, the fake reputation. His face went pale, and for once, he was speechless. I expected him to deny it, to lash out, but instead, he crumbled. He sat down, buried his face in his hands, and started crying. Adam admitted everything. He confessed that he had been living in constant fear of being exposed. He said the pressure to be perfect, to live up to everyone's expectations, had driven him to make terrible choices. He claimed he had tried to start fresh, but the guilt and paranoia had been eating him alive. I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I was furious. Adam had spent years belittling me while hiding this dark secret. On the other hand, I saw a broken man who had finally hit rock bottom. In that moment, I made a decision. I told Adam I wouldn't expose him, but only under one condition: he had to come clean to our parents and take full responsibility for his actions. No more lies, no more pretending. He needed to own up to his mistakes and start rebuilding his life honestly. At first, he resisted. He begged me to keep the secret, promising he would change on his own. But I stood firm. I told him the only way forward was through honesty. The next family gathering was tense. Adam sat down with our parents and told them everything. The embezzlement, the fake resignation, the years of deceit. My parents were devastated. They couldn't reconcile the image of their perfect son with the reality of his actions. It wasn't easy, but over time, they began to support Adam in his journey to make amends. He started therapy, found a new job far removed from the corporate world, and began paying back what he had stolen. As for me, the dynamic with my family shifted. My parents finally saw me for who I was, not as Adam's overshadowed sibling, but as someone who had carved out their own path. They apologized for the years of neglect and began to take an active interest in my life. Adam and I are still rebuilding our relationship. It's not perfect, but it's better. The rivalry that defined our childhood and early adulthood has been replaced by a cautious truce. He's learning to let go of his ego, and I'm learning to forgive. This journey has taught me that success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about staying true to yourself, even when the world doubts you. And sometimes, the biggest victories come not from tearing others down, but from helping them rise back up. For the first time in years, I feel at peace. And that, more than anything, is the success I've always been striving for. This is the end of this story and hope you have enjoyed it. That's all for today's video, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for more exciting content. See you next time.